Break the grip of control. He will show you how to mend what was broken, how to anchor yourself in heritage, faith, and healing. So breathe once more. Inhale clarity, exhale readiness, and step forward from breaking free to building whole. Manipulation rarely enters the room wearing its true name. It doesn't announce itself as harm. It arrives disguised. Sometimes it wears the mask of care. I just want what's best for you. Sometimes it dresses itself as love. If you really cared, you'd do this for me. Sometimes it hides behind authority. You don't know what's good for you, but I do. On the surface, these words can sound protective, but underneath, they twist your freedom. Because true care empowers, manipulation disguises control as concern. True love honors choice. Manipulation demands compliance. True guidance respects boundaries. Manipulation erases them. So, the first step is recognition. Not everything that looks like care is care. Sometimes it is a costume. And the sooner you learn to see the mask, the sooner you can protect yourself. Manipulation is powerful because it does not always shout. Often it whispers, "You owe me. No one else will love you like I do. If you leave, you'll regret it." These are the hooks, phrases designed to sink into your fear, your guilt, your longing to belong. And once the hook is set, it tugs at you. It makes you question yourself. It makes you doubt your instincts. It keeps you tethered to someone else's control. But hear me clearly. Those hooks are not truth. They are tactics. You are not unworthy without them. You are not trapped by their approval. The hook only holds if you agree to keep carrying it. This is why awareness is everything. Because once you see the pattern, once you name it, the power begins to dissolve. Not all at once, not without pain, but slowly, steadily, clarity weakens the chain. So start here. When words feel heavy on your chest, ask yourself, is this love or is this leverage? Because manipulation thrives in disguise. And you are learning now to strip away the mask. Gaslighting is one of the most insidious forms of manipulation. It doesn't just challenge your opinion, it attacks your reality. It sounds like, "That never happened. You're too sensitive. Everyone thinks you're overreacting." Over time, these phrases are not just words. They are weapons. Because gaslighting plants doubt, not about the situation, but about you. It makes you question your memory. It makes you distrust your feelings. It makes you wonder, am I the problem? And that is the manipulator's goal, to weaken your confidence until you lean on their version of reality. Gaslighting works only if it isolates you. If your voice is the only one in your head, you can be convinced you're losing touch. So the first antidote is this: document your truth. Write things down. Keep records of what was said, what was promised, what actually happened. Not because you owe proof to them, but because you owe clarity to yourself. The second antidote: bring in trusted witnesses. Friends, therapists, communities who can remind you, no, you're not crazy. Yes, this really happened. Yes, your feelings make sense. The third antidote: practice saying the words, I know what I experienced. Even if your voice trembles, each time you repeat it, you reclaim ground. Gaslighting is a war on your perception. But perception can be rebuilt. Step by step. Breath by breath. Remember this: the fact that you question yourself is not evidence that you're broken. It's evidence that someone tried to break your trust in you. And every time you choose to affirm your own reality, you weaken their grip. Gaslighting is powerful, but truth, once named, is stronger. Manipulation rarely begins with cruelty. It begins with charm. The compliments flow easily. The attention feels intoxicating. The gestures are grand, as though you've finally been chosen, finally been seen. This stage is deliberate. It builds attachment quickly. It convinces you that this connection is rare, that you must not lose it. The hook is set in the sweetness, because once you are invested, once you feel special, you are easier to control. But soon, the charm shifts. Little criticisms creep in. That warmth grows conditional. Silence replaces affection, unless you comply. And when you resist, punishment arrives. It may be anger, sharp and sudden. It may be withdrawal, cold and distant. It may be guilt. After all I've done for you. This is the cycle of control. Idealize, devalue, punish. And then, just when you are ready to leave, the charm returns. A sudden apology, a tender gesture, a reminder of the sweetness that hooked you in the first place. And so the loop begins again. What makes this cycle dangerous is not just the harm itself. It's the hope, the belief that the good version is real and the cruelty is the exception. But hear me clearly. The cycle is the truth. The inconsistency is the control. The whiplash keeps you unsteady, always working to earn back affection that should never have been conditional. Breaking free begins with seeing the pattern, naming it, refusing to be fooled by the return of charm. Because real care is steady, real love is consistent, and anything that holds you hostage between sweetness and cruelty is not love at all. One of the oldest tricks in manipulation is also one of the quietest: isolation. It doesn't always begin with outright commands. Often, it starts subtly. They don't really understand you like I do. Your friends are jealous of us. Why do you need anyone else when you have me? At first, these words can sound flattering. They paint the manipulator as special, as uniquely invested. But slowly, the circle closes in. You stop calling friends as often. You pull back from family gatherings. You second-guess whether anyone else would even believe your perspective. And without realizing it, your world shrinks until the manipulator becomes the only voice left in the room. That is not closeness. That is captivity. The antidote to isolation is connection. Every time you reach out to someone trustworthy, you weaken the manipulator's hold. Every time you speak the truth aloud, you chip away at the silence that keeps you trapped. Reclaiming connections may feel risky. You may fear judgment. You may worry no one will understand. But hear me clearly. Healthy friends and family will not punish you for struggling. They will stand with you. And if you have no safe connections nearby, seek support elsewhere. A counselor, a community group, even a journal that records your truth so it cannot be erased. Isolation thrives on convincing you that you are alone. But you are not alone. Every step you take to widen your circle again, every call, every message, every moment of honesty is resistance. And resistance breaks control. So remember this: love will never cut you off from the people and practices that keep you strong. If someone is shrinking your world, it is not love. It is manipulation, and you deserve freedom. Manipulators often use what you need most as their strongest tool. Sometimes it's money. They pay the bills, then remind you every day, "You'd be nothing without me." Sometimes it's emotional support. They comfort you one moment, then weaponize your vulnerability the next. "After all I've done for you, how dare you question me?" This is leverage, turning what should be care into a chain. It works because it strikes at your survival, your belonging, your deepest fears of being abandoned. But hear me, true support does not demand your silence. True care does not hold you hostage. If love comes with constant debt, it is not love, it is leverage. The first step in breaking free is to name it. Say the words clearly. This is not help. This is control. The second step is to begin reclaiming what was used against you. If it is financial, start small. Save a little. Learn what independence could look like. Build options quietly if you must. If it is emotional, build new sources of support. Friends, communities, professionals who remind you that your worth is not tied to one person's approval. And if it is both, recognize that the manipulator will tighten their grip as you step away. That resistance is proof of their fear, not your weakness. The goal is not to repay their help. The goal is to see clearly. Help that demands obedience was never help at all. Leverage loses power the moment you realize you are allowed to need, to ask, to grow, without being chained by guilt. So breathe deeply. Exhale the debt that was never yours. Your needs are not flaws. Your dependence does not make you unworthy. And anyone who twists your needs into shackles is not protecting you. They are protecting their control. And you deserve freedom. When charm and guilt are not enough, manipulators reach for fear. Sometimes it is loud, yelling, slamming doors, threats of leaving, threats of violence. Other times it is quiet, a sudden withdrawal of affection, a cold silence that chills the room, a subtle look that says, "Step out of line and you'll pay for it." Fear is the currency of control. It trains you to second guess, to tiptoe, to silence yourself before they ever have to silence you. This is not love. This is domination. Fear thrives when it feels absolute, when it convinces you that you have no choice, no escape, no strength. But fear too has cracks. The first crack appears when you name it. I am being intimidated. Naming breaks the spell of confusion. It shifts the weight from my fault to their tactic. The second crack comes when you imagine alternatives, even small ones, calling a friend, seeking support, writing your truth in a journal so it cannot be erased. Fear tells you you are trapped. Action proves otherwise. And the third crack, courage, not the absence of fear, but the decision to act despite it. Every step you take, every boundary you draw, every truth you voice, every connection you reclaim, weakens their power. Because fear is not infinite. It depends on silence, on compliance, on your belief that you have no way out. The moment you resist, the moment you see the tactic, the leash begins to snap. So remember this: if love requires your fear, it is not love, it is control. And you deserve to live free of anyone who needs your fear to feel powerful. When manipulation is exposed, when the control begins to crack, most manipulators do not surrender. Instead, they perform change. The apologies arrive, grand, tearful, rehearsed. The promises sound convincing. I'll never do that again. I see what I've done. This time will be different. And for a moment, hope returns. The tenderness feels real. The cycle feels broken. But then, slowly, the old patterns creep back. Because for manipulators, promises are not commitments. They are tools. They buy time. They calm resistance. They reset the cycle. The illusion of change is not growth. It is strategy. So how do you know if change is genuine? Look for consistency, not declarations. Has behavior shifted over weeks, over months, not just in the glow of an apology, but in the quiet grind of daily life? Look for accountability. Does the person admit the harm without excuses? Do they seek support to change, or do they rely on your forgiveness alone? Look for respect. Do they honor your boundaries now, not only when they fear losing you? Real change is slow. It is proven, not performed. Anything less is just the cycle in new clothing. So when the words sound perfect, but the actions remain hollow, trust what you see. Because true change does not need convincing. It shows itself, quietly, consistently, until safety grows again. And if safety never grows, then the change was never real. Do not be fooled by the illusion. Hope is powerful, yes, but hope without evidence keeps you chained. So hold on to this. Love proves itself in action, not in performance. And you deserve nothing less than the real thing. One of the manipulator's greatest victories is teaching you to silence yourself. Every time you swallowed words to avoid conflict, every time you bit back truth because you feared the reaction, every time you stayed quiet just to keep the peace. That silence becomes a cage. At first, it feels like survival, but over time, it becomes self-erasure. You forget the sound of your own needs. You begin to doubt that your voice even matters. And that is exactly what manipulation wants. Your silence. Because silence protects their power. Reclaiming your voice begins small. It doesn't start with shouting. It starts with whispering truth back to yourself. Try it. I felt hurt. I need space. I deserve better. Say the words aloud, even if no one else hears them yet. Then practice with safe people, a friend who listens, a therapist who validates, a journal that holds your truth without interruption. Notice how it feels in your body when you speak honestly, perhaps shaky, perhaps freeing. With time, the words grow stronger. The cage begins to crack. And when you finally speak, in the presence of the manipulator, clear, firm, unapologetic, you reclaim the power they tried to take from you. Your voice is not a weapon. It is your birthright. And every word you speak, in truth and self-respect, is a step toward freedom. So remember this: silence was survival then. But now, your voice is the path forward. And no one, no matter how skilled in manipulation, has the right to take it from you again. Many people imagine freedom as a single moment, bags packed, doors slammed, a dramatic goodbye. And yes, sometimes it looks like that, but more often, freedom unfolds quietly. It begins with awareness, naming the manipulation. It grows with preparation, building resources, reconnecting with support, strengthening your inner voice. And then it takes shape in steps, a conversation spoken with new clarity, a boundary held, a decision made without permission. Freedom is not just leaving a person, it is leaving the pattern. And patterns don't always fall in a day. So, if your process feels slow, don't confuse that with failure. Every small act of reclaiming yourself is freedom in motion. So, how do you measure freedom? Not only by the distance between you and them, but by the closeness between you and yourself. Ask yourself, do I trust my perceptions more today than I did yesterday? Do I feel safer to speak my truth out loud? Do I make choices now that once felt impossible? That is freedom. Because freedom is not just external, it is internal. It is the moment you realize their voice no longer overrides your own. It is the day you wake up and your first thought is not, "How do I keep them happy?" but "What do I need today?" It is the hour you take a breath, make a choice, and feel no fear of punishment. That is freedom, and it grows, step by step, breath by breath. So, if you are still in process, hold steady. Freedom is not a finish line. It is a practice. And you are already living it each time you take yourself back from the grip of control. We have walked together through masks and shadows. We have named manipulation for what it is: control dressed as care, fear disguised as love, dependency spun into chains. We have unmasked gaslighting, cycles of charm and cruelty, the cage of isolation, the leash of fear. And we have spoken of freedom, not as fantasy, but as process, step by step, breath by breath. The truth is not always easy, but truth is liberation. When you see clearly, you cannot be fooled so easily again. When you speak honestly, you reclaim power. When you choose freedom daily, you rebuild your life. Manipulation thrives in darkness. You now carry light. Take one more steady inhale with me. Exhale slowly. Feel the weight of illusion leaving, the clarity remaining. You do not walk out of this hour empty. You carry truth now, sharp, unshakable, yours to keep. But truth alone is not enough. It must be grounded in wisdom. It must be carried into healing. And that is where we go next. At 7 p.m., Uncle Marvin will meet you. His voice carries the deep roots of Southern wisdom, the strength of generations who endured, and the healing